Oh, you know what you need to do, Suze? The I talked to Tom Miller from the International Motocross Museum. Talk more about that later in the show. Thanks for making the sign. That's number one. You need to start looking for tickets for me for September 21st. Keep looking because prices have gone to the moon.
Yeah, they have. They have.
So keep looking as we get closer.
Okay.
And when you think you got the best one, buy the ticket.
21st.
Yeah, so I like to fly out there on, that's a Wednesday, so Monday night, maybe Tuesday morning.
It's a midweek.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get tickets for New Jersey, but they're like $800. I would never pay more than like
I know.
$350 the most. It's nuts.
So
All
keep
right.
your eyes peeled for a reasonable ticket.
I will.
All right. Show's going to start in about 5 to 10 seconds.
Okay.
I love you. All right.
Yeah.
You're live.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me. Let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what you're going to see on the show tonight. In the next time try this segment, we've got a great little tip for you. If you're changing clutch plates in your bike, in the Moto Showcase, we got a 1967 Kawasaki F2M. In the Here's the Problem segment, some great questions that have been coming in throughout the week. What's it worth? A Yamaha DT1. And in the Just How I See It segment, I want to know if you have recently heard about Bank Bandit going bankrupt. They've taken over $640,000 from their customers. It seems that there was, they were well informed when they began doing this, okay? They did file bankruptcy. We're going to be talking about it later on in the show, but so far, $640,000 of people's hard-earned money that they laid out for parts is now gone, and it doesn't look like they're ever going to get it back. I want to hear your comments throughout the show. Did you buy something from Bank Bandit? Did you get taken for some money? I want to hear your comments throughout the show, $640,000. I'll give you some details a little bit later on to tell you more about how I believe they knew well in advance that this was going to happen. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Along with me is my beautiful wife, Susan. We'll be talking to her a little bit later on in the show. She has some comments and things that are going on in here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Now, don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, a little bit later on, we will have a random share giveaway winner. You'll get a beautiful sticker sheet just like this, compliments of vinco.com. So keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, comment Motion Pro. Comment Motion Pro if you're on YouTube. Our show is going great on YouTube. We could always use a little bit of help. So if you get a moment, go over there and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see all the shows we've done in the past. And when you do subscribe, you'll get a little alert just like this. It tells you when we're live on Facebook and, of course, on YouTube. How are the pros watching the show? How are the experts watching it? They're sitting back, commenting from their phone and watching it on their big screen TV. It's a great way to watch the show and catch all the action on your big screen TV from inside your home while you comment. It's a great way to watch the show. Don't forget to keep sharing it too. Tell your friends all about it. I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vintco, Racer X Magazine, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, Bill's Pipes, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and our latest sponsor. We will be working in conjunction with the International Motocross Museum. I want to thank Tom Miller for the shirt, Terry Good for working along with us, and we'll be telling you more about all the things that will be happening with the International Motocross Museum. More on that later on in the show. Tonight's Next Time Try This segment, I want to give you a couple of tips for the next time you have to change the clutch plates in your bike. For the simplicity of this video, I have half a case right here, and your engine, for whatever bike it may be, may look similar to that. First thing you want to do is take off the clutch cover. Now, this cover, of course, came loose very, very easily. If you have difficulty getting the cover off, do not put a screwdriver between the case and the cover. Use a spatula like this, a putty knife. It's hard plastic. You can get in there and gently pry without doing any damage to the case. In this situation, the dowel pins did not come out in the cover. They're still in the case. You can see them right here. Okay? See a dowel pin there, and there's one on the other side. When you're taking that cover off, it may be to where the dowel pins come off in the cover, like this. You don't want them in the cover, you want them in the case. So when you go to put your clutch gasket, the cover gasket back on, it stays there right in place like you see here. Those pins are not just to align the cover, they also keep the gasket in line, so when you go to put your cover back on, you don't pinch the gasket. Now, let's move on a little bit here. When you take off your screws and you get your springs out, you'll see a pressure plate like this. This is the outside of your clutch. The first thing you want to do is get a look at that plate. Many times, a steel plate like that is going to stick to the cover. You're going to think you're missing it. You're not going to know where it is. When you go to put your clutch plates back in, you're going to think something's missing, or you might get them in the wrong order. Take a look at the pressure plate. Make sure there is no steel plate on there. After you get your other plates out, if you're going to discard them, that's fine. You're going to use your steel plates again, that's okay too. Now, if you are going to use new clutch plates, here's what I recommend. Take your new fiber plates, put them in a pan with fresh oil that you use in the engine of your bike. Pour that oil over the clutch plates. Let them soak for 15 or 20 minutes. You don't need to go any longer than that. It's just a clutch plate. It's only going to absorb so much oil. It's not a piece of mahogany that you're going to wrap around a spiral staircase. So, you put some oil in there, you let them soak for a while. When you reassemble it all, make sure you know if you're going to begin with a steel plate or a fiber plate. Some other tips along the way. Yes, brake clean, an excellent item to have on hand when you go to assemble this again. You want to clean off all the edges of your clutch cover and also on your engine. Get off all the old oil that's on there. If you have a new gasket, that's wonderful. Replace it with your new gasket. If you do not have a new gasket, like this one, I would recommend a sealant like this. It's really great. It's called high-tack sealant. Dry your gasket off carefully, spray it on both sides, let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes. You put your gasket back on, you can reassemble the clutch, put your cover back on, and you're ready to go. So, make sure the surfaces are clean. Check your pressure plate. Make sure no plates are stuck to it. Dry off your gasket. You can use sealant like this if you don't have a new gasket. Soak your fiber discs in oil. 10-15 minutes is all it takes. You reassemble everything, and everything should go very, very smoothly. So next time, try that. In the Moto Showcase tonight, we take a look at a bike from Dylan and Chris Lucas. And I mention both of their names because both of them have sent bikes into us in the past. And they've got a great Facebook page. It's called the Lucas Family Collection. They are on Facebook. It's a great way to see all their bikes. But tonight, Chris sent in a bike to us. It's a 1967 Kawasaki F2M, a rather unusual and rare bike. I'm going to read to you about it, exactly what Chris told me, and Jordan's going to go through the slides. When I think about my next project will be, I always like a challenge. I was reading about a Kawasaki dirt bike, a press frame B8M that dominated the Japan MX series in 1963. The bike was the predecessor to the 238, so I thought it would be a good bike to track down. It would be no big deal. However, I was very, very wrong. I called the usual suspects, and I called them all from across the country, and they all said to me the same thing. Good luck with that. I was looking on Craigslist one day, and I found a guy just 10 miles from my house with a 67 Kawasaki for sale for just $100. I drug that pile home, and it took me about 3 years before I really got started on it. Surprisingly, most of the parts were incredibly easy to find and readily available. I had the motor completely rebuilt by Action Cycle in Tacoma, Washington with all NOS parts. I got rid of the 25-pound ignition and I fit a PVL for a 238 green streak on it. I hid the electrical in the body. I found an NOS gas tank on eBay as well as a new pipe. The hardest part to find was the seat base, and I found one in a wrecking yard in Alabama. I had a local shop make the cover. Buchanan did the wheels. The bike has a lot of NOS parts on it, as well as some custom parts and a few top secret parts. I like unusual bikes, so with a 1967 F2M, the granddad of the KX, I think I've uncovered the unusual quite well. Joe, thanks for always putting our bikes on the show. We appreciate it very, very much. Well, thank you, the Lucas family, Chris Lucas and Dylan Lucas. And yeah, it's a great bike. You always send me in a fabulous bike. If you guys would like another coffee mug like this, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Preston Petty products, let me know. Or maybe you want a sticker sheet or something else. You guys have been very, very generous with us throughout the show, always sending in some really, really great bikes. F2M, 1967. Thanks, Chris Lucas. And that segment is, of course, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. This week, the special is the LED headlight for just $169.95. Now, here it is right here, okay? 1,200 lumens of light. It's got a battery on the back that is rechargeable. It comes with a charger just like this. You can get extra batteries. Always keep one charged up. This will go on your bike. No wires, no fuss, no muss. This light will last up to 5 hours, 6 probably, okay? Get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com. Get a headlight just like this, $169.95. And if you have a retail outlet or a way you like to sell Preston Petty products, ask Paul Standard about becoming a dealer. Thanks, Paul Standard, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And here's the problem segment tonight. We take a look at some of the questions that you have sent in over the past week or so. Jordan, what do we have up first? Oh, my buddy Rich Vassallo, who happened to be out in California this past week, gave me a call and he had a question for me. He said, is there any other kickstand from Honda that will fit a 1979 CR250? The MX side stands are very, very difficult to find for the motocross bikes. You know, Rich, I did a little research on this, and I've discovered that a 1984 Honda XR200 has a kickstand that's very, very similar to the one that was on a 1979 CR250. I do believe that that foot on the bottom may be angled a little bit differently than it was on the CR250, but the length is correct and it will mount right up to your 79 CR250 frame and use the same spring. So now you can go out and search for an 84 XR200 kickstand. Might be a little easier to find than a 79 CR250. Thanks for the question, Rich. Glen Lewis, Joe, what is the correct color for a 1980 RM125 shock spring? They look to be silver on my bike, but they look also that they are turning white. Which is it? Glenn, very interesting question. And yes, they do change shades over the years, but they are neither white or silver. The actual color of that spring is called Suzuki Champagne Gold. Champagne Gold was one of their car colors in the 80s. And if you go to a auto body supply store and you ask for Suzuki Champagne Gold, you will find it. And it's also quite popular with powder coating too. And while I'm thinking about it, Glenn, if you're going to refinish those springs, I'd really, really recommend you powder coat them. And I'll tell you why. Unless you have a bead blasting cabinet or a vapor blasting cabinet, very, very difficult to clean out inside the spring coil. Easiest thing to do, the best job you're going to get is to give it to a powder coater. He's going to sandblast it, and you can powder coat them too, which will probably hold up a whole lot better than paint. Or you could paint them afterward too. But that's the color, Suzuki Champagne Gold. What do we got next, Jordan? Jeff Kokoski. Joe, any tips on shortening the rear of a carburetor? And Jeff went into detail a little bit on this, and I'm going to read to you what he's written to me. My buddy Ryan and I found that it's easier and cheaper to buy a new Mikuni carburetor for the old vintage bikes that we're working on. Much cheaper and a better carburetor than any of the Chinese knockoffs. We really like to use Tim Hughes from Hughes Bultaco in New York. We give Tim the make and model. He sends us a bike with a carburetor with some extra jets, and it usually runs us around $300. However, some of the carburetors that we're using on some of our bikes the bell is too long on the back. It's very, very difficult to get the carburetor. Once we put it on to the reed valve or the intake, very, very difficult to get it onto the airbox, the rubber boot at the airbox on the way back. How do I get that bell cut down? I did a segment one time on a lathe, and I showed you how to do it on a lathe. Not everybody has a lathe. Now I'm going to show you something that may look a little primitive, but really works great. A pipe cutter, just like this. Okay, you could probably rent a pipe cutter this size at this size at Home Depot. It might be a little expensive to go buy one, but maybe if you have a friend who is a plumber, it's a great way to cut down the barrel, or that bell rather, on the back of that carburetor. It'll never come out cleaner. It'll never come out straighter. It seems a little archaic, but it works great. I've done it a few times. Thanks for the question, Jeff.
Hey, I'm Brad Lackey, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Be right back.
Welcome back. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we're going to be taking a look at a 1971 Yamaha DT250. This is the segment of the show where I like you to play along and guess how much you think this bike recently sold for without going over. If we do that tonight, we'll get somebody a sticker sheet, okay? Somebody's going to get a sticker sheet tonight. This bike did sell on April 10th, 2022 in Southern California. I'll read to you what the description is. Jordan will go through the slides and put in your best guess of what you think it sold for. 1971 Yamaha DT1. I purchased this motorcycle from the original owner several years ago after it had been stored inside his garage for 45 years. Matching numbers on the frame and engine. It's got a federal label, DT1F37020. And it does match. Original mandarin orange paint remains beautiful and shiny. There's no dents at all, although it does show some minor touch-up and scratches and sun fading. Inside, the gas tank is spotless. There was a new petcock installed. Carburetor was cleaned and rebuilt with original Mikuni parts. It has a new battery, original seat cover. There are no tears, holes, or worn spots in the seat cover. The seat pan is clean and has no rust at all. All chrome remains shiny and rust-free. It has the original Dunlop tires on it, and they are in excellent condition. All lights are working. The headlight, the high and low beam, the turn signals, the tail light, everything is working as it should. Gauges are clean, colors are vibrant, chrome is excellent, and both work smoothly. The odometer reads, get this, 1,761 miles. And I was assured that it is the original miles on this bike. I personally only put about 15 miles on it. Since I've added it to my collection, all the cables and controls, everything works smoothly. The engine top end was rebuilt. It does have new rings and a new piston, and it runs absolutely flawlessly. The original auto lube oil injection is still connected. It functions perfectly. There's no smoke from the engine at all. The brakes work well. Overall, this is a very nice survivor, and I would certainly call it a survivor with just 1,700 miles. It's got some minor flaws that you would expect to see a bike that has been sitting for 51 years, but it has exceptionally low miles and has always been garaged in Southern California. What do you think this 1971 DT1 250 sold for? Original 1,700 mile bike. 4,000. 5,000, 8,000. This bike sold for $6,650, Susie.
Well, let's see who came
$6,650. Who got closest without going over? I thought that was a really, really great deal for our first generation DT1 with such low mileage on it, too.
Looks like John Deemer.
Don Beamer? Who?
John Deemer.
Oh, John Deemer? He got it closest without going over?
He said 62.
6,200, John Deemer. Get a hold of me. I'll get you a nice sticker sheet, John. Or maybe even some Preston Petty GP grips, if that's what you prefer, over the stickers. Thanks for playing along, everyone. Full Circle Racing still has a special going on. They will powder coat your hubs for just $50 a hub, $10 more if you want the backing plates done. This is either in satin black or a gloss black finish. For just a couple of bucks more, Tom will make them any color you like. Get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing, 50 bucks a hub. And you know what? I've had Tom do hubs for us, and he's built our rims, has supplied spokes, does an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you, Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing, for being a longtime sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Have you ever heard of? This is a nice little segment of the show where I bring up a bike you probably have never heard of, and you can take a look at it while Jordan goes through the slides. I've got something exceptionally rare this week. In fact, I was even having difficulty finding pictures of it. But have you ever heard of an Astoria? An Astoria was founded by Virginio Fieschi, a well-known rider in the 20s in Italy. He raced Ardea, Borgo, Forgri, Douglas, BSA, Sunbeam, Miller, and a host of other bikes. Fieschi built his first motorcycle in 1925, and he competed with that bike in some races in Gagliardi and Milan. Production of the Milanese brand was developed in two distinct periods, initially in 1934 to 1936, when motorcycles back then were being built with AJS engines and a Berman gearbox. They were sold in Italy under the name Ajax. They had displacements of 250 cc's and 500 cc's. With the arrival of import restrictions, Virginio Fieschi, owner of Astoria, in 1935 started building his own 500cc engines. They were the first ones to adopt a coil valve spring, offering machines in a Turismo and a sport version. A year later, the company ceased production, but they reappeared in 1947 in Milan, and Fieschi was still at the helm. The first post-war motorcycles were 500cc singles. They were joined in 1950 by a 125cc Villiers-powered machine. Subsequently, lightweight motorcycles, 125, 150, 175, and 200cc's were produced, and the engines were manufactured in-house. Both of the engines were two-stroke, and an interesting exception was a single overhead cam 175 produced in two versions. There were reports of other four-strokes other than the 175, including a 169cc version produced in 1955. However, production ended for Astoria in 1957. Very, very interesting bike. And Italy is just full of great little stories like that, with bikes that didn't go on very, very long, but very, very historic and very, very interesting, and not very many of them left. So, and don't forget, coming up, we're going to have Just How I See It. We're talking about that Bike Bandit bankruptcy. In the meantime, who does it better than Mark Farriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting? Nobody. Okay, I've been sending stuff to Mark for over a year now. He does an absolutely fantastic job. I know a lot of people from our show are using his service as well. You simply put it in a box, mail it to Mark Farriester. His turnaround time is phenomenal. His prices are absolutely beyond reasonable. Turnaround time is great. Puts it back in a box in one day. You'll get a part back cleaner than new. So whether it floats, flies, or rolls, get a hold of Mark Farriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting in Modesto, California. Thank you, Mark. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. When we do get back, we will have tonight's random share giveaway winner, and we will also be talking about the Bike Bandit bankruptcy, $630,000 plus more floating around. May never be seen again. We'll be right back after this message.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Welcome back. As promised before the break, we do have tonight's winner of the random share giveaway. It is Kenneth Klaus. Kenneth Klaus. You will be getting a sticker sheet just like this, compliments of Vinco.com. Kenneth Klaus. Get us your mailing address. We'll get you out a sticker sheet right away. Ken Klaus. Now, as I was talking about in the beginning of the show, we were talking about BikeBandit.com. And BikeBandit.com has been around a while. They do sell parts mostly to more modern bikes and ATVs. That is their big audience. And right now, they are in bankruptcy. Bank Bandit has filed bankruptcy for approximately $646,000, and it doesn't appear to be any recourse from any of the customers. Now, what's really, really kind of, well, sad about this is that according to things that I have read, Bike Bandit started letting people go from their organization in November of 2021. By December of 2021, the majority of their people had all been let go. This didn't stop them from taking orders. They continued to take orders online, continued to take money, and I find that rather distasteful. In fact, I find it disgusting that you knew you were going to be out of business and you continued to take people's money, okay? $646,000, and it just remains unclear why a debtor or why BikeBandit.com would continue to take people's money knowing that they were never going to be able to fulfill those orders. Now, $646,000, look, we all been there. We've all bought parts online, whether it's from Parts Unlimited or whoever it may be. What is our orders? What do they usually come to? 100, 200 bucks? Think about how many people are out. $646,000. To make matters worse, and this is really, really interesting, it appears that BikeBandit.com in 2017 received the Paycheck Protection Program checks. They had so many people working for them, they qualified through the government to receive $4,230,000. Now, we know that's a grant that was given to them by the government. They didn't have to pay that back to begin with. $4,230,000. To add insult to injury, another $646,000 out of your pocket. I don't know if any of my viewers here have been bilked by BikeBandit.com. I don't know, but don't go to their website because a lot of places it's still up. And if you go online, you could read a lot about the Bike Bandit debacle. Susie, do we have any comments from anyone regarding the BikeBandit.com situation?
Well, just Gary Kane said that he's been having the same issues with Chaparral as he did with Bike Bandit. So apparently,
same issues with Chaparral?
that's what he said.
Look, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know that much. I don't know anything about the Chaparral situation. You may just have a delivery problem. They may just be short on product, and that's why you may be having a problem. But I think for all of us, we need to look out for each other. We need to go online and see exactly what's going on with some of these larger companies. Many of them do get products from China. Maybe there is difficulty during the coronavirus and things like that going on where they were not getting product, but didn't stop taking orders. So let's all look out for one another. BikeBandit.com, you have lived up to your name, $646,000 of our hard-earned money. What's up next, Jordan? This Week in Motocross History, brought to you by Racer X Magazine. I love this magazine. It's one of the finest motocross publications. It's on your newsstand now. It's also available online. Racer X. Don't forget to see our ad in the back of the issue. 1976. There it is, the Sandmaster, Pierre Karsmaker, of course. The Dutchman grew up with sand tracks over there in the Netherlands, and Southwick MX38 hosted the first AMA 250 National in 1976. And the Sandmaster himself, Pierre Karsmaker of Team Honda, was the overall winner, with defending AMA 250cc champion Tony DeStefano finishing second, and Husqvarna's Brad Lackey finishing third. I find it very, very interesting. I don't ever remember Brad Lackey riding a 250 National, but I guess it is possible. At that time, Brad was on a 250 that day. Pierre Karsmaker took a first. 1982. The O Show goes to Switzerland. This is an interesting story as well. With an off weekend for the AMA 125 Nationals, Team Honda's Johnny O'Mara decided to take a trip to Frauenfeld, Switzerland. The race, the FIM 125cc Motocross Championship. He met up against Eric Gabor, Suzuki's hot prospect, to keep their 125cc title-winning ways going, and that was happening since 1975 with Gaston Rayer. O'Mara, a hero for Team USA at the previous year's Motocross and Trophies the Nations, dominated the race, winning both motos. Imagine that, taking a day off from the Nationals, a weekend off, going over to Switzerland, and mopping up in two motos. Johnny O taking the show on the road. And in 1992, we had Bradshaw down in San Jose. At the San Jose Supercross, Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw scored a win over Honda's Jeff Stanton and teammate Doug Dubach, with 4 Suzuki riders following. They were Guy Cooper, Ron Tishner, Brian Swink, and Denny Stevenson. The race allowed Bradshaw to take the points lead into the final round, which wouldn't be held until mid-July. Wasn't held till mid-July due to the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles. What a grim time in America. But yeah, Bradshaw left San Jose this week. They were not able to race in Anaheim till mid-July due to the riots that were going on. And that's what's happening in motocross history this week. We do have some announcements tonight that is brought to you by Bill's Pipe. Be sure to visit Bill's Pipes on their Facebook page. That's the best way to get a hold of them. Thank you, Bill Severus and Randy Scott, for all you do for us here at the show. Bill's Pipes. I was up at Hangtown this past weekend. We had a great time at the National up there. We got to see, of course, Antonio Caroli, Ryan Dungey. El Hombre did an absolutely amazing job of taking the overall win. And Eli Tomac did a fabulous job as well. I want to thank Kevin Bridges and Bob Messer for putting on such a great event. And don't forget, if you didn't see it already, go over to Vintage Motocross Q&A. Warren Reed did a great show, and I was able to videotape it and bring it to you. It was called Warren Reed's MX Tales Campfire Chat, and it was a really great time. Who was there? Brad Lackey, Bevo 40, Gary Chaplin, Steve Wise, and a host of others. So it lasted almost 2 hours. Go over, check it out at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And thank you, Kevin Bridges and Bob Messer. Great job up there at Hangtown. Looking forward to being there next year again. We've got some events coming up. In fact, we've got quite a bit of them. I'm going to buzz right through them. We've got an AHRMA event coming up, AHRMA Northwest. It's a vintage event that is at Lakeview, Oregon, and that is coming up. The dates are right there on the page. We've got Dinosaur Days at Toutle, Washington. There's a vintage and an MXTT that is at Riverdale Raceway. Check them out online as well. American Retrocross at Glen, Helen, June 19th. That, I believe, is on the truck track. We've got Old School Scrambles, Tammy Greenhill at it again. June 19th, that event is also at Glen Helen. And we've got the Midwest Vintage race coming up June 25th and 26th. That is in picturesque Hickston, Wisconsin. And those are all the events that are going on in Vintage Motocross. Now we're going to get down to the finish line, which is, of course, brought to you by our latest sponsor, the International Motocross Museum. Number one, thank Tom Miller for the shirt, and Terry Good, thank you for all you've been doing over the years with trying to make this museum come to fruition. It doesn't look like it's really going to happen this time. Terry has secured a building. You've seen the interview with me and Tom Miller and Dave Arnold in the past, along with Gunnar Lindstrom. There's going to be an event coming up. It will be a fundraiser. It happens on September 21st. That is a Wednesday, okay? This is the second fundraiser that we're going to have. I went to the first one. It was absolutely phenomenal. At the first one, we had Roger DeCoster, Bob Hanna, and so many more. Steve Wise was there. Warren Reed was there. A lot of great riders. Now, due to the coronavirus last year, we were not able to have a lot of the European riders there. They will be there this year. Heikki Mikkola, Harry Everts, Garrett Wolsink, and so many more. The best thing you can do right now, between now and September 21st, is get over to the International Motocross Museum website, okay? They've got Facebook pages. They've got a website. Get a shirt like this, okay? Get a hat, get a shirt, get some posters. They got some amazing swag for sale, very reasonably priced, and all the money will be going toward the International Motocross Museum. September 21st. I hope you can make it. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I want to thank Terry Good and Tom Miller for working in conjunction with me here at the at Vintage Motocross Q&A. You'll be able to see bikes like this. Hannah's national championship winning bike. He told stories with Roger DeCoster that were absolutely incredible. Ricky Johnson, what an MC job he did. He is second to none. You get to see all the bikes, all the stars. Be there September 21st. It's a Wednesday. The International Motocross Museum fundraiser. In the meantime, check them out online. Get yourself a hat, a shirt, some posters, or get over to their Facebook pages. Thank you, Terry Good.
21st or 24th?
I believe it is September 21st.
Oh, sorry.
It precedes the Motocross the Nations, which is in Redbud the next week. That's why they're doing it on a Wednesday. Redbud's the following week. You want to have a great time in the Midwest? Go to the International Motocross Museum on a Wednesday at a fundraiser. Hang around, go to the Motocross Donations at Redbud, just 2 hours away, 3 days later. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts are still available, Susie. You can get it for just $19.99 in gray and white. Has the logo across the front. It's got my autograph across the back. You can still get yourself a hoodie if you'd like one of those. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are available. As we have been talking about, we've got our latest sponsor, the International Motocross Museum. I am also speaking to a few other people that are interested in coming aboard. I've got a special going on right now for first-time sponsors. So if you're a first-time sponsor, I've got something really great for you, and the rate is really, really phenomenal. Now, I've been telling you every week, week after week, and here it is again, May 28th through June, we had 20,000 people in 1 week, okay? 20,000 people. May 28th through June 30th. That doesn't seem right. That's like a month. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. We have 20,000 people a week. We're reaching like 80,000 people a month, okay? I'm sorry, I may have sent Jordan the wrong information. 20,000 people a week, every week. Keep sharing the show. We've got winners of stickers. We give away grips. We give away some great books like this one back here, Discovering 6 Days from our friend Keith Geisner. And yeah, just keep sharing the show. And if you're interested in the sponsorship opportunity package, let me know. I think that about wraps it up for us tonight here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. And yeah, Preston Petty Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. I want to thank everybody who helps out. Motion Pro, Full Circle Racing, and the dogs. You got Gino to come out here. Rocco, he's just not as bold as he was when I first got him. I don't know what the problem is there. But Susie, release the hounds. Gino! Gino! See you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Gino! Come on, boy!